This recap is just one segment from the Show vs. Business podcast. Find the rest online now. Enjoy.
With that being said, let's get into our recap. Loki, episode 1. So, oh man, there's so many different ways we can go with this, man. So, yeah. So, do you want to give a high level overview of what happened this episode?
So, right off the bat, we actually have a bit of a differing opinion here. So, I'll go ahead and throw my version out there. Just an overview, not how I liked it, how I felt about it. Basically, you've got your two things are happening here. We're introducing Loki, and his. And when I say introducing him, we've only known him as this kind of character that's kind of been pushed around by life or whatever. Now we get to actually know Loki. And spoiler on, if you've seen the episode, you should look at how they're spending time to actually break down the character. You had Owen Wilson literally speaking to him like, "Hey, what do you want? What are you trying? Do you really like being like this?" So we're in a situation where Loki is trapped, and he's got to find a way to um, get back to what he wants to do. But then the question is, what do you really want to do, Loki? And in this situation, what are you going to do? We're giving you an opportunity to free yourself, to help out the world, the universe, or whatever. Um, but we're not going to just let you go about your way. Uh, that was extremely high level in terms of how the show is going, but it's important because it's setting up Loki and it's setting up the rest of the MCU. Um, I don't know if you want to jump in on any of the exact story beats. We can back and forth this a little bit, Theo.
Yeah. So, 10-second overview. Loki from 2012, after getting his ass beat by the Avengers, gets abducted by the Time Variance Authority. He's a disbeliever, but after they beat his ass a couple times, he realized they're real. Finds out that Mobius, who's the time cop there for him, says, "I need you to work with me together," and we go after a variant version of you that's been messing up the timeline. So that's my 20-second overview of what happened in this episode, and that's the beginning of what we're going to get into. So high level take is all right. I mean, so I'm going to watch it because it's Marvel and I get where they're trying to go with it, but I'm getting tired of the trolling, to be honest with you.
Oh, right.
There's a lot of trolling going on here, a lot of interesting concepts they're going to throw at us. But I guarantee by, I don't know how many episodes this is, by the end of the series, we're going to be the same way we were with WandaVision and with, Captain Black American Falcon. So I think, I get where they're going with it, right? We'll talk about the theories because this is what the internet does, right? Stuff is introducing these TV shows, and man, the internet explodes with theories like, "Oh, this is who is this? This is what was going to happen." And then, dude, at the end, we get something like Rick Boner. I know I keep saying that; it's just hilarious. Rick Boner will show up, and it just negate everything you just saw, and it was just, about the friends you met along the way. Shout out to Andy Greenwald. The watch.
Yeah.
But nothing really happened, right? It's just about the journey of who Loki is a character, which is fine. So that's my premise is like, I think it's fine if you like Loki, and that's where you're going to end up at this. Now, the other concepts, I think it's just going to be like background colors, which makes sense as we get into the more under the movies, which will probably explain all this in more better detail. But now we got nice color, right? But we're not going to reveal anything of substance, right, in these shows, in my opinion. So anyways, that's my high level synopsis and take. So where do you want to go from there?
Okay, so it's interesting. I totally agree with you on the trolling bit, and what we mean by that is, I don't know if you've seen WandaVision or if you've seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but basically they introduce these characters, and at the end of the series, not too much really changes. You've introduced characters, but there's really no resolution to anything. It's just like stuff happened. Um, you and we will keep repeating boner until Marvel sends us a cease and desist on that one. Um, that because that was terrible. I hate them for that.
That was the worst thing ever, man. Oh my god,
Yeah.
dude! When they introduced that, anyway, we'll
Yeah,
get into it.
if you're watching WandaVision, one day you'll hear the word boner and you'll be like, "Oh my god, that." Anyway, um, but yeah, maybe they'll get better at it at this kind of trolling where no one's expectations are high. But I'm looking at it now as a complete character introspective story because Loki is literally trying to find himself. And that whole Owen Wilson scene, I thought it was dragging on for a bit long. It's like, hey man, here's your history. What are you really about? And he's like, I'm the god of mischief. It's like, no, Loki, I don't believe you. What are you really about? And this thing went on. And I'm like, are, really? Are you gonna really spend this much time, you know, banging on this thing? And they did. And so now I'm like, okay, I could see this going really sappy toward the end where, he's all crying and happy and, you know, maybe some other Asgardian shows up, and it's like, hey Loki, uh, I always went to bat for you. Maybe Heimdall will show up and hug him or something. I don't know, something dumb.
Heimdall.
You know,
Funny.
Heimdall, the guy with the two the shaved head in
Yeah, played
Ragnarok.
by Urban, the guy from The Boys. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
in that. Yeah.
you'll probably get some random guy from Asgard or Loki's history to come in there and give him a hug and say, "Hey, you're awesome, and you changed the world for the better." I don't know what that's going to lead into in terms of the rest of the MCU, but I'm actually very interested in this show just because of its connection to the MCU. I mean, I
Oh
literally
goodness.
think, uh-oh. You don't think
They got you, man. They
they got
got you.
me.
They got you.
Ah, they
Well, we'll cover the theories, man. I wrote them down in the show notes, so we'll cover all that. Hot take, hot take. Um, do you think when they started these shows that there was a different direction that they may wanted to advance storylines in these shows, but then Feige came in at the last minute and was like, nope, we're not going to introduce anything of interest in these shows. We want to keep it focused on the movies. I think the original direction was to introduce interesting concepts, and that's why every one of them start off with great concepts and interesting thoughts, but they end up with collective fart, basically. And so,
mm,
because I think the powers that be just said, you know what, this is not the direction we want to go in. Maybe the pandemic changed their thoughts or whatever, and they just like, you know what, let's just change the storylines enough where everything could just, as long as the character gets from point A to point B, so they're ready for the next movie, then we're good to go. So that's my hot take. I think they may have changed direction in the middle of the film of these and just say, you know what, we're not going to introduce anything of consequence at all.
hmm. That's a good question. I actually think that they may have had this idea from the get-go and didn't
Mm.
care. Didn't care what people thought as much. Like, well, it's Marvel. They're gonna come with us, duh. And if they save their big revelations for the movies, that's your money bank right there. You got your Disney Premier access and you've got your theater following. Um, I mean, what happens if Black Widow comes out and people are like, I haven't been that excited about getting out to a theater. Um, I haven't been that excited to pay Premier Access. I've got Disney Plus and all these Marvel shows on Disney. Why would I go watch that? And then suddenly, after Saturday or Sunday rolls around and it's like you're hearing all this buzz. Oh my God, dog, in Black Widow, they did this, this, and this, and that happened. And yo, this character showed up and he died, man. I don't believe it. I mean, they killed. And you're like, whoa, really?
Oh my god, I almost died.
Where something actually happened, and when we say something actually happened, we mean there's a turning um, point in terms of a revelation, a change of mindset, a character changes their direction by dying or becoming something else. These are what we mean when we say something happened where you look back and say, at this point, this thing changed, and going forward, it will never be the same again. So I think they're definitely saving that for the movies, and I actually think it was intentional all the way. They just never really sold it to
Mhm.
us as such.
But they put so much interesting concepts and ideas into this. It's like, that's a lot to put in there and then troll everybody. It just seems like, it doesn't seem like the Marvel way, right? I mean, they never had to troll before. I guess that's the thing. So it's kind of like now you're trolling so hard. It's just like, dude, that don't even seem like you. Why you gotta be like that, man? Yeah, it doesn't seem like a character because they never had to, right? It was always about like next story and building the characters, but giving you good revelations. But with, slight twists here and there based on the original stories. So now these movies, these TV shows come out, and it's like nothing but a troll job. It's just like we got all these great concepts and things that were introduced. So I mean, to be fair, so I mean, let's get into a little bit of deep dive of what we see potentially coming to this, right? I mean, I can kind of talk a little bit about reason. So obviously, we know the Loki's head writer, Michael Waldron. He's also in charge of writing the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is the Doctor Strange sequel that's going to introduce the multiverse, and Wanda will show up in that as well. So to be fair, this may not be as bad of a troll job because there may be a lot of concepts that he's trying to lay the foundation for. So when you do see Doctor Strange 2, it's going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. I remember what's going on. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, I do feel like I'm about to get, like what Lucy and Charlie Brown the football. Oh, here's the multiverse. Get excited. Get excited. I'm running. Oh yeah, I'm about to go see what
Ooh,
oh, he took it away. It's just Rick Boner
yeah.
showed up again.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah. I'm totally with you. Multiverse of madness, but you realize, or you did you catch when they actually mentioned multiverse and madness within like two sentences of each other? So
Troll.
troll man. They're like talk, yeah, and if you start branching off too far, there's going to end up with a multiverse, and anytime that happens, it leads to madness. I'm like, oh, did you guys just plug in a commercial that hard?
And Doctor Strange will show up.
Eh, Yeah, yeah, and they never like say it straight out. They're like, and there's things are going to be strange. You'll need you'll need a doctor to straighten out. It's like what?
It would be strange. You'll need a doctor
You're like, wait, what are you talking about? Are you?
and a witch.
Is this neuro linguistic programming? What are you doing out here? Come on, MCU.
Oh man, this is hilarious, man. Just to see him in real time try to create, compelling TV shows. So this is amazing to me. So I mean, let's get into it, man. I mean, so this whole concept of time and the time variant authority, it's just like to me. So I kind of put this like deeper dive on some of my notes. Obviously, Loki works on a couple levels. You got this buddy cop show, right, where basically Loki and Mobius are going to go after another Loki, which sure, that works on the TV level, right? It's kind of like what's it called,
On
Law and Order, time variant edition,
oh,
so dum dum
dum
dum dum
dum.
dum dum bum, 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 bum.
I
So you
thought you, I
got
thought you were
Loki.
about to, I thought you were about to say quantum leap.
Well, kind of Leap was more like, helping people, kind of like what's that show back in the day? Highway to Heaven. I don't know if you remember that show.
Yeah, yeah.
Michael Landon, just helping people. This is more like, we gotta go after, the bad guy and stop these time variants and stuff like that. But looks like the main thrust may be Loki, but they may switch that. So we'll see. But so that time cop, kind of concept. Then you got the character study, right? Which is the, like you talked about, this is the Loki from 2012, right? After
Hmm.
he got, beat by the Avengers. He's basically really the bad guy in that movie, right? And so he's evolved over that. So now they're trying to figure out who this guy really is when, he doesn't have to go get killed by, spoiler alert, by Thanos, right? In the beginning of Infinity, what's it called?
Yeah.
Infinity War. But and then they got the world building, right? Which, I thought that was really well done, right? The time variance authority. And so in the comic books, did you know anything about them at all? Have you read about them at all?
No, it was kind of obscure, and the TVA was kind of obscure. And anytime you got into the mystical, celestial, um, crazy outer space stuff with Marvel, it got kind of stupid. So
Yeah.
I left it alone. What what I hope they can do is not get too weird, and I think that's the danger in this crop of Marvel movies is just getting too weird with time jumping and you know alternate
Yeah.
characters, and
Hmm.
it's like, oh
That's
wait,
my
I thought
problem
that was
with,
Loki.
yeah,
Why is there a bad Loki? What the fuck are you talking about?
exactly.
I missed an episode
Exactly.
now. Fuck it. I don't like Marvel anymore. Yeah.
That's the problem when you introduce time travel. I mean, they kind of did it they had to do an end game.
Hmm.
But now it's kind of like now you're gonna start scratching your head about a lot of stuff because the first thing that Loki said, even though how would he know this? But the first thing he said was like, "Why are you going after me?" When basically Avengers, that was the whole purpose of Endgame to go fuck with the timeline, right? And
Yeah.
so it's like, dude, why are you messing with me? So it's like, so it's kind of like, oh, they're supposed, So here's a line, screenwriter 101,
Yeah.
that's supposed to happen, so it's kind of like, what does that mean, so what's the rules, man? You can't introduce
Yeah.
magic and time travel, you don't have any rules, it's just like, it's so arbitrary, right? And so that's the problem with me. So basically you got all this stuff, retconning going on. So we already brought back two characters already in these TV shows, right, that were dead. We already brought back Vision, right? He's supposed to be dead, and after Endgame, he came back, and now we got Loki. He's back, right?
Hmm.
So there's no stakes anymore, right? So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they already hinted at it, but
And
Tony Stark would be back.
Zemo's back on the table. It's like w- in a weird way. It's like no real consequences. Just like, hey man, let me unlock you from this jail and let's go have fun. I don't know. It just
No, let's go. Let's go to the club for about 2 hours. Just
Mm, 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 mm.
Zemo is getting it, boy. Zemo gets it. So, but so which is fine. I mean, anyone who's read comic books, we know no character can die. I mean, no character can die forever, right? They can always be brought back. I mean, literally, the two characters they said you could never bring back was Bucky and Uncle Ben, and they were brought back Bucky, right, in the comic book. So it's kind of like, anybody can come back now, right? So it's kind of like whatever. So the movies are just reflecting that now that they introduce time travel and all that. So that's one problem I see with it. One thing also, you let's get a little dark deeper in this, man. So is Captain American a variant?
Here we go. Captain, 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 everybody. Yeah, I mean, and
Because
that's the
remember what
thing.
happened at the end of the game? After Endgame, what happened to him?
Oh, what were you talking about
He
when
went back in time and he lived his
yeah,
life as
lived his
a
life out,
regular
right?
old dude.
Yeah, and he was end up sitting on a porch somewhere, smiling, and yep. I went back, got with Peggy. It was great. Peggy Carter.
He's, Here's a shield, Sam. It looks good on you, bro.
Yeah, I don't know, Captain America. See, at this point, because of what you're saying here about just like bringing anybody back and actually having consequences, I don't want to see him anymore. I don't want to see much of Tony Stark anymore. Maybe the effects of their legacy, sure,
Mhm.
but I don't want to see, just like I don't want to hold on to that. If you made that change, make that change and let it be done. Go about your business.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to make it more like comic books, and dude, this is so crazy, man. This is the dominant culture now, isn't it? Let's just take a step back. Going into these deep minutia, this is stuff we used to talk about at 3 a.m. in the dorm room on comic books, and now this is like dominant pop culture now. Everybody understands time travel now. They want to know retconning. It was like wow to me. But anyway, I digress. It's just amazing to me how things have changed. So the other thing I wanted to kind of bring up, someone I listened to another podcast. They brought this up too, the Ringerverse, and but they brought a good point. They said, so they mentioned TVA in that big, nice little exposition period around 9 minutes in. Like you said, they want to prune these multiverses so that these different timelines so they become multiverses. But it's just so weird to me. So are we talking about different multiverse? So this is the example I use. So different multiverse would be like a Nate Summers, right? For those that don't know, Nate Summers was basically a alternate version of Cable, right? That basically grew up with all his powers intact and became the X-Man, who was pretty strong and powerful in the comic books as like one of the top. Is he considered a what's it called? Omega mutant X-Man? Do
Oh,
you know?
right, that whole term. I think he was. I want to say he was.
Yeah. So Nate Summers was in a different multiverse, right? There was a whole thing called the Age of Apocalypse when Apocalypse took over, and Nate was like, the Cable of that universe. Or is it where you alternate timeline, but it's in the same universe? So, for instance, Cable, he is basically taken from our timeline, right, and then put into the future, and then now he came back. So he didn't go to another universe. He stayed in our universe in our timeline. So you
Yep.
get what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
do you have two different multiverses, or is it okay to go inside your own universe but in your own timeline? And so I'm like, dude, that's crazy. How to explain that?
Well, okay, and that was, I think, part of the reason why they had the people explaining, how you had the three timekeepers or whatever, explaining how time is supposed to stay together. They're
Mhm.
fighting to keep this one multiverse intact. Their one little set of ways and timelines intact. And anything outside of that, where it goes outside the red zone,
Mm.
that's when it leads to madness. We don't want madness. You know.
So you're saying it creates a different universe, whereas if you jump between the timelines in your own universe, is okay. Is that what you're thinking?
Okay, if you look at the yes, if you look at the visualization that they've always used for a timeline, even back to when when the all what do they call it? The seeing one, the almighty one, whatever, from Doctor Strange,
Mhm.
bald headed lady, um,
The ancient one,
ancient
yes.
one, right? If you look at the visual of the timeline, it's not like a perfect line. It's this weird swarming series of lines and all that. Those you can think of those as like events or whatever, where they kind of start going out of order, but then they come right back and they weave in and out of each other.
Mhm.
So let me do this here. If you look,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
if you watch Tenet,
Oh no.
there's a certain amount of craziness that can happen, and the entropy of time will kind of heal itself. That was one of the things that they said, where it's like, well, look, you can do this and go back and whatever, and bullet shoots backwards, whatever. You can pop somebody in the stomach with the reverse bullet. All right, wait. I feel like I just came in from a different universe there. The timeline just jumped back in place. Where where was I?
I think you were talking about Tenet. You were doing a reference on
Oh
Tenet.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so the entropy of time. Basically, I think what they're saying with the Marvel Universe is kind of what Tennant was saying, that you can fudge with time a little bit and the entropy of time will heal itself to a certain extent. But, and that's why you have the time streams with things weaving in and out of it. Like it's not a perfect concentric line. I mean, not concentric, it's not a perfectly contiguous line. It's all these little waves going in and out. And if you go too far out of that, that's when you get the danger zone. That's when you get variants. That's when you get multiple universes and things getting weird, which is the madness they were talking about. So, you know, I think that Marvel's using that as a way to say, hey, listen, we can we can fudge with things just a little bit. Don't worry, it's not really going to mess with the main timeline too much. Um, please stay with us while we take all your money.
Okay.
But
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like I said, this is this is main. This is what we consider main entertainment now, and it's a head scratcher already, man. You know, when you start introducing time travel and concepts, and like for instance, they had the scene where he came back as DB Cooper. So I guess that was supposed to happen, you know, and so so it's kind of like stuff like that. They're just kind of dorking with us a little bit with time travel and retconning and what's real, what's not, who can do what. So it is one of those things that's very interesting to me that where they're kind of going with this. So one thing I did want to cover.
Do you,
Go ahead.
oh, I have a question. Do you think that it will, the time travel nature of it, will affect Black Widow in any way?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they already kind of hinted that she's kind of more connected to Captain America. Remember, the Winter Soldier, her and
Hmm.
Captain America were doing a road trip. And then obviously, man, what's her name? Madam Hydra. They're supposed to. The
Yeah,
reason why she has a tag at the end of Captain America because she shows up um, in Black Widow. So I think I don't know, but dude, I mean, all bets are off now. So the pandemic messed everybody's timeline up. So who knows? They may throw a little snippet in there to get us ready for I think let me think. So the only two movies this year are the Eternals and Black Widow, right? For Marvel.
yeah. Um, yes. Wait.
Spider-Man.
When does Shang-Chi come out?
Oh yeah, you're right, Shang-Chi. And then yeah, those are the three. And then Spider-Man, let's see, when does that come out? No Way Home. Oh, is that supposed to come out this year? Yeah, December. So I mean, it's a Sony production, but that's
Yeah,
the one they're going to also talk a little bit about the multiverse, where there's rumored that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, who previously both played Spider-Man, will show up. So yeah,
madness,
so madness. Yeah, so
madness.
they're going to have three official Marvel movies and then fourth one, which is a pseudo one with Sony. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to weave all this in. But the real big ones are going to happen in 2022 when you have Doctor Strange and Madness show up. So yeah, so it's going to be interesting, man. A couple other big things we want to kind of cover. So the big rumors out there are is like they're introducing the big bad now, and so the hint is that these guys are so powerful that the Infinity Stones don't mean shit to them. They're like paperweights, right? And so that was, the revelation there. So to kind of give people a sense of how powerful the Time Lords are. So the rumor is that either one of the Time Lords or one of the Timekeepers is basically Kang the Conqueror, right? Who's already been cast and will show up in Ant-Man. What are your thoughts on that? And we can kind of talk about who Kang the Conqueror is, but basically he is a antagonist of the Avengers. He's basically a 30th century man seeking to conquer all the time space continuum. And now the rumor is that he's probably going to be one of these time lords. And the other rumor is the reason why we think it's going to show up is because the judge they introduce here, Ravonna Renslayer, she's a character that
Yeah.
has romantic interest with um, King the Conqueror. So we think he either may show up or we may see a little bit of. He probably won't show up. That's my prediction, but we may see him. Kind of have. We'll get a sense of his origin, if you will. So, any thoughts on that?
Um, Marvel's got a lot to juggle here, and as we said, in Feige we trust, but this is madness, man. I mean, you're talking about quantum mania. I go so small that time doesn't affect me, and 5 years later I pop back up, and it's like, look, man, you get small and you get big. That's keeping it simple. Now you're getting into quantum physics and um, you know, time doing weird things, and now I need to go watch that. Okay, okay, sure. You've got WandaVision doing things. It's like, hey, I'm screwing around with different versions of my husband, my dead husband robot being, and I've got this crazy book that allows me to do weird things. Uh, you know, yeesh, it just gets. gets
And we
odd
didn't even
very
talk about
quickly.
Secret
So
Wars, or Secret Invasion, right? Which they introduced a little bit also in WandaVision,
yes,
which the scrolls, pop up
shape
and show up.
shape
Yeah,
shifting.
shape shifting. And then, obviously, we can kind of get into you know, uh, Secret Wars, right? Which is the one we grew up in when they introduced the Beyonder, right? Who basically took all the
Hmm.
heroes to this planet and they fought each other to see who would win. And then finally, they got out of that. But then they had a new version where Jonathan Hickman wrote, where basically all the multiverse was going to be destroyed through these what they call these incursions. And they created a battle world where the Doctor Doom was the god of that new planet that evolved.
Oh Lord, and we still have the Fantastic
Yeah, the
Four.
Fantastic Four could be introduced, Doctor Doom, yeah, X-Men. So it's, dude, I mean, I get Feige, but it's like I don't think we're gonna see it's not gonna be as clean as the Avengers was. I mean, Avengers, they kind of laid it out. We're going to get to Thanos, right? I think he got so many
Yeah.
balls in his head. I think it may be more of a hodgepodge, right? It's gonna be like, yeah, this is Secret Invasion, that's going to come out first. But then right away, it's going to lead into the next thing, which is Secret Wars or something like that. So some kind of way he's going to have multiple major events pop up. Because you saw that the new
Hmm.
Captain Marvel is going to be, isn't it like Marvels or something like that, where they're going to introduce the Captain Marvel, where they was going to do Miss Marvel, right? That young
Hmm.
girl that's popping up. Obviously, the main Captain Marvel, and then Spectrum, right, who was introduced in the last WandaVision.
WandaVision.
So they're going to have like a whole kind of theme Marvel thing going over with those young ladies. So it's going to be interesting, man. I mean, I think we're all scratching our head to see what's that. Is there going to be a unifying theory to kind of thread all this needles? But I don't think so, man. This is too much. I mean, especially when you introduce the multiverse. Literally, you can probably
Madness.
you can create any of these things can make sense now. But they're going to be in different universes, so they're going to have to kind of team up together to kind of go after maybe Kang or something
Yeah.
like that. Maybe I don't know.
I'm always of the mind to um, keep it simple, and this is hard to do with writers and people developing these big productions. It's like, if you have something that's successful, they're like, "Hey, Spider-Man was successful, and he fought one bad guy. Now let's have him fight two bad guys." And it's like, don't do that. Don't just keep it one bad guy. Edit it a little bit and change the story, but keep it simple. You know, there's a whole phrase: "Keep it simple, stupid." And with all this madness, I think they run the risk of losing a lot of regular people. And once that happens, you're not getting it back because people jump off the train and they're like, yo, man, I'm not getting back into that. There's too much stuff I need to watch. I don't care. Ooh, Mayor of Easttown, I'll watch that. And you're off the Marvel train.
I don't know, man. Those movies made a shitload of money, dude. I mean, that's like Star Wars level, right? Where it just created a whole bunch of new fans, right? I mean, and
Hmm.
so now, now granted, okay, let's think about it. So we do compare how we grew up with Star Wars being the dominant, pop culture, but we didn't have as much content for Star Wars, right? The thing about kept Star Wars kind of still the forefront of our mind. It was just not a lot of content, right? For years, right? We
Yeah.
would just subsist on the holy trilogy, right? We were just like, oh, I used to watch that like literally every year. I would go to my uncle's house and he had all the trilogy back then on like deep laser disc, and I would just sit there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna mainline this all day. But it wasn't finally till when we were in college they start remastered them, and then we got the prequels and stuff like that. So this is totally different. So now you're right. They got this generation that's grew up on these characters for like teen. I mean, they literally grew up. I mean, if you were like, teenager when it first came out of
Yeah.
Ant-Man in '08, and it just ended in what was it 19? So you literally, became a grown person in that period of time. That's all you know. So now you're like, oh, these stories are continuing, and I want to get my kids engaged with it and all that stuff. So I'm just curious. I don't know if they're gonna leave, man. I mean, it's just too much. It's like the story of our lives now.
Well, no, but you fell out of comics at some point because they started doing too much foolishness, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not you personally, but the people fall out because it's like, look, once they split into this storyline, I can't keep up with the Fantastic Four. I can't keep up with X-Men. I can't keep up with all these different comics. I just need and it's not like they can just jump in and enjoy it. There's so much that they have to, or
Mhm.
they feel they have to follow along with. And I think that's a dangerous proposition, because none of these movies can I say, hey, you want to watch this movie because this guy fights this guy and it's a story about love, revenge, or whatever. It's always like, oh, you have to watch this movie because it connects to the universe this way. Um, this guy shows up and it introduces him, so you're going to want to watch that. I don't give a fuck about all that. I just want to watch a good movie. And I think they're testing the
Mhm.
patience of people.
Well, I would say this: comics come out once a week, right? And so it's just unrelenting, right? And so if a story not you're not feeling, then you just drop it and wait till the next storyline come up or something like that. But I will say this: so I see why now Feige is talking about these TV shows may not have relevant stuff in there. It just may color in the lines or the outside background. But the movies, to your point, I think that they're going to be must see. So like, I think at most they may even produce. I mean, I guess this year they're having 4 movies, right? I think that's the most they can do, right? One movie every 3 months, which is not that bad to keep up with. Now, let's say
Right,
one of
right.
those movies you're like, oh, I'm digging, Shang-Chi, even though he doesn't have any background story. But now, okay, they're gonna have a Shang-Chi TV show, then yeah, I might watch that because I'm digging that character, right? And I want to know the
Yeah,
background of all that. So I think, that's probably why he's getting into this. Like, we're not gonna reveal too much in TV shows because you're right, it's just too much content, right? I think now we're just starving, and so they just had these ready to go, but and they already mentioned that there's not going to be a WandaVision part second season. So there you go.
right.
So it's not like, a lot of these shows are going to continue indefinitely. They may just pop up to color in the lines, right? To give you a sense of
Oh
what's
yeah,
going
that's
on.
yeah,
But
totally.
they're not going to be like, oh yeah, his Wise Vision, season 8, Vision came back. Now he's a dog or something like that. So Sparky's back. So it's gonna be interesting, man. So yeah, man, dude, this is why we talk about it, man. We just don't know. And so I think so let's sum it all up real quick. Loki. So I guess we're both in because we kind of have to be. So uh
Oh, yo, you're in because you have to be. I'm in because I think it's beautiful.
oh Lord. Don't even sound like you, man. Oh my goodness. Okay, sure. It's beautiful. Uh
Yeah, man, it's interesting. I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't even explain it. I think I've been hanging around Andy for too
I
long.
see, man. I see, man. Yeah, he gets into the score. He starts talking about the score and see how they did that score. That just made you, feel them. Um, True story. Yeah, High Level. I saw The Heights. Very great show. You guys need to check it out. A movie just came out recently on HBO Max. Lin Manuel Miranda, who created Hamilton, that was his first musical. Great, great. Now you see where genius comes from. So just want to give that shout out real quick. We talk about, music and all that, and it's funny because we don't talk about musicals on this pod, but it's like when you listen to it, uh, obviously you got the visual representation, you got the dialogue and the plot. But when you add that music component, it's just that added additional information. So it just makes the storyline hit a little bit, a little bit harder because now you got more insight, right? Because like Andy was mentioning, I'm sure you know as well, when you play certain, types of music or certain types of things, it brings, different feelings up while they're talking, while they're moving. So just,
Yeah.
kind of, musicals can give you a little bit more information. So anyway, I just throw that out there. But to sum it up, so where do we see Loki going, man, long term, real quick, and then predictions over the next couple of episodes?
Next couple of episodes, geez, I don't know. Um, he goes on his merry adventure with this Mobius guy. Um, I actually don't have any kind of predictions on it, man. I'm just here for all the cool time travel retcon noise that they're going to be doing. Sprinkle me, babe.
Yeah, I mean, my predictions are, I think we will see, uh, maybe some introduction or some talk about Kane the Conqueror to kind of give you a sense of who this guy is a little bit. But yeah, I agree. It's just going to be mostly about Loki, finding out his purpose in the Marvel universe, which, we think is basically an agent of chaos, right? He's just coming in, you know, to just cause mischief, right? That's what he is, the god of mischief. So he'll help out when he can, but for the most part, you gotta coerce him and just kind of get him, do stuff. But for the most part, he's gonna do his own thing, man. And so I see at the end he's gonna do something mischievous, and he's just gonna disappear on Mobius, and he's gonna be off on his island chilling. So then they're gonna call him when they need him. So that's kind of my prediction.
Madness. Thank you so much for listening to this segment of the Show versus Business podcast. We want to bring you a relevant and fresh perspective every week. So please subscribe, check out our other videos, and definitely share your thoughts below. Peace.